Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Today we're diving straight into one of the most fascinating geopolitical shifts of the 20th century. We're going to break down the complex, decades-long political struggle that led to the creation of Pakistan in 1947. It's an incredible historical journey, tracing how a movement morphed from demanding basic political safeguards into entirely redrawing the map of South Asia.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're breaking this down into 5 highly manageable chapters, starting with the early political awakening, moving into the era of pacts and proposals, looking at the shift toward a new separatist vision, pinpointing the decisive 1940 resolution, and finally, exploring the rapid push to partition.
Part 1. Awakening and Early Shifts, the catalyst for political identity.
Let's kick things off in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Following the 1857 War of Independence, Muslim political power in South Asia had taken a massive hit. But then, 1905 happens. The partition of Bengal puts East Bengal, a Muslim-majority area, right on the political map with newfound importance. But, as you might know, the backlash was fierce and the British actually annulled it in 1911. That reversal? It was a huge wake-up call. It caused profound resentment and made it crystal clear that Muslims needed their own dedicated political voice. And that realization directly sparked the creation of the All India Muslim League in 1906, giving them a formal platform to safeguard their rights.
All right, on to Part 2. Seeking Rights Within India, the Era of Pacts and Proposals.
Now, it's so important to remember that in these early days, the goal wasn't separation. It was securing rights within a united India. Take the 1916 Lucknow Pact, for instance, championed by Quaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah. This was a high watermark for cooperation. Congress actually agreed to the principle of separate electorates for Muslims. But fast forward to the 1928 Nehru Report. It completely walked back those promises, denying the separate electorates and ignoring the 1916 agreements. As you can imagine, this deeply fractured Hindu-Muslim unity and really dialed up Muslim political consciousness.
So how did they respond? In 1929, Quaid-e-Azam countered with his famous 14 points. And honestly, this was an absolute masterclass in constitutional safeguarding. We've highlighted the top 5 elements here. He was pushing for provincial autonomy, so Muslim-majority areas could manage themselves, separate electorates to guarantee an independent political voice, a solid 1/3 representation in the central legislature, splitting Sindh from Bombay, and of course, full protection of religious and cultural freedom. It was a comprehensive blueprint for minority protections.
Part 3. A new vision emerges, shifting from safeguards to separation.
By the time we hit the 1930s, the whole trajectory of the struggle starts to fundamentally shift. The roundtable conferences in London, where everyone was trying to reach a settlement, basically hit a brick wall. But out of that frustration, a totally new intellectual foundation was laid. Check out this 1930 Allahabad address by Allama Iqbal. He wasn't just asking for electoral safeguards anymore. He's proposing that Muslim-majority provinces like Punjab, the Northwest Frontier Province, Sindh, and Baluchistan amalgamate into a single consolidated state. He literally called it the final destiny of the Muslims in Northwest India.
But what actually took this from an intellectual idea to a massive public movement? Well, it was the reality on the ground during the Congress ministries between 1937 and 1939. The policies enacted then felt deeply hostile to the Muslim population. We're talking discriminatory practices in government jobs, mandatory recitation of Vande Mataram in schools, kids being forced to revere Gandhi's portrait, and a general feeling that their culture was being entirely suppressed. That shared frustration, it was the glue that mobilized the masses straight into the arms of the Muslim League.
Which brings us to a massive question that totally changes the trajectory of this explainer. We've got the intellectual seeds planted in 1930. And the public frustration boiling over by 1939. So when exactly did the official policy demand flip completely from just representation to an independent, sovereign state?
Let's find out in Part 4, the 1940 Pakistan Resolution, the decisive turning point.
This is the exact moment everything changed. No more pursuing a united constitutional framework. On March 23, 1940, in Lahore, the Muslim League, presided over by Quaid-e-Azam, passed the Pakistan Resolution. This was a bold, uncompromising declaration, stating that Muslims were a completely separate nation from Hindus, and therefore required autonomous, sovereign, independent states in the northwestern and eastern zones of India. Literally overnight, this single resolution redrew the ultimate objective of the entire movement.
Which brings us to Part 5, the final push to partition, proving the mandate.
Right in the thick of World War II, the British desperately needed support from India. Enter the 1942 Cripps Proposals, which offered Dominion status after the war. But it was a total political dead end. Both major political bodies rejected it, but for completely opposite reasons. Congress wanted an immediate transfer of power and said absolutely no to provinces separating. The Muslim League, they rejected the whole thing because it fell short of officially accepting the demand for a sovereign Pakistan. To break this intense deadlock, they held elections. And the 1945 and 1946 results were the absolute climax of this struggle. Just look at these numbers. The Muslim League won an unbelievable 100% of the Central Assembly seats reserved for Muslims. They also took around 90% in the provincial assemblies. This wasn't just a win, it was an undeniable mandate. It proved without a shadow of a doubt that the League was the sole representative body for Muslims in India and that the demand for Pakistan had massive public backing.
But here's the truly incredible part about those elections. Voters in Muslim minority provinces, places like UP, Madras, Bombay, and Bihar, they actually became the vanguard of the whole movement. They voted overwhelmingly for the creation of Pakistan, fully knowing their own homes legally wouldn't even be part of the new country. They did this out of sheer political unity and deep religious consciousness, believing that a sovereign Pakistan was necessary to safeguard Muslim rights across the entire region, even if they were left behind. After the cabinet mission plan collapsed and the interim government fell apart, the writing was on the wall. Lord Mountbatten arrives in March 1947 and quickly realizes partition is the only way to avoid total chaos. By June, he announces the Mountbatten Plan, rolling out the division in 3 monumental steps. First, splitting the subcontinent into 2 separate dominions. Second, the incredibly painful partition of the major provinces of Punjab and Bengal through boundary commissions. And third, holding referendums in places like the NWFP and Sylhet so the people could decide their own affiliation.
And that brings us to the end of today's Explainer. I want to leave you with this final thought to chew on. How does a minority community go from asking for basic electoral safeguards, like we saw back in 1906, to literally redrawing the global map in just 40 years? It's a wild testament to how a profound shift in identity, a reaction to perceived political exclusion, and incredibly strategic mobilization birthed an entirely new nation. I highly encourage you to keep exploring these historical turning points. They are absolutely crucial to understanding how our modern world was shaped. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today.